in front of the board for a COID, an applicability hearing. It was granted. We went ahead with a site plan, received that, and it's actually constructed and it's occupied. And what Mr. Hillman would like to do is almost a mirror image of that project onto the easterly portion of the project. Part of the filing, the initial filing, there was an A&R plan drawn, which cut 237 Littleton Road out of the bigger hunk of property. Currently, so this project now would have an 8 one-bedroom unit apartments or condos, 4 on each floor, so it would be a 2-story building, shown in the shaded area, the shaded building, again, off to the east side of the property. We would utilize the same curb cut, if I can, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Currently, there's an existing driveway here that fed the existing 12-unit building in the back that's been there since I can remember. This is the first 8-unit building that went in about 4.5 years or so ago. This is the new building. Currently, when you come into the driveway, there's a parking lot area here that just shows the underground recharge system that was built as part of the stormwater management for that. What we're gonna do, and I know there's a lot of lines on here, but we would come down the driveway and come to the parking area that's proposed for the new building. Some of the things we learned from the other project, this is a bit of a pain to plow. When the plow comes in this way, it really wants to push the snow up against the building. He has to kind of feather it off a little bit. What we'd be able to do here is kind of come in, the plow would be able to push it forward. We have plenty of snow storage area here. The building is proposed to hook up to the municipal water system, the municipal sewer system, and for stormwater management, we would do the same basic thing as we did on the first one. I'm not exactly remember the name of the project, but when the large 40B project went in, a couple of lots down, if you remember correctly, they needed to do a phase 2 water type of system to kind of loop the water in through there. Mr. Hillman got involved with that, gave that developer an easement so they could loop the water system to provide a reinforcing loop as well as a volume type of loop. And the one thing Charlie did ask for was that the utilities be brought off of Littleton Road, which is a state road. And so if you were to go out there now, there's a fire hydrant, there's a water service that connects into the existing water system in Littleton Road. It's dead-ended and there's a fire hydrant there now. They also brought the sewer system off. If you would go out there today, there's a dead-end manhole on the property. So we would be able to do most, if not all, of the utility work without having to enter into Littleton Road. So we do believe, just to go through a couple of quickie little items here, we do believe this meets the definition of an RPPP, which is a residential reuse or redevelopment project. From the definitions on 195-110, on RRRP, this type of project allows for the conversion of all or a portion of an existing commercial property into a residential use. The purposes of RIPS is to encourage a range of housing opportunities to replace underutilized or obsolete commercial or industrial properties. And again, to reiterate, these are going to be 8 one-bedroom units. 235 Littleton Road Realty Trust had some success in filling up the initial one, and he had such a great experience with the planning board, he'd like to do it again. I know I was very quick. This is the initial. I should state that we do need a special permit because it's more than 4 residential units. So if we were allowed to go forward, we would file a complete site plan for site plan approval, special permit applications, as well as a filing with the Conservation Commission. There are some wetlands to the rear. If you were to look at the site plan, we've situated the building outside of there. There are no structure zones and no pavement zones. And we do think we could meet all of their criteria as well.
All right. So anybody, you want to start in and get any questions?
Trying to
on
get
this?
it up here
Okay, why don't
electronically.
we start with the other mic?
Get
I
electronically.
have a question, and this area, this has got the existing, that old motel, really, in the
That's
back.
12 unit.
12 units. But the nature of this COID request for finding would seem to me that this was a commercial property being redeveloped as residential. As far as I can tell, the only thing that's commercial about it might be the zoning designation. There never has been anything commercial, or at least not in any recent times, been anything commercial on here. So what are we redeveloping?
Well, it is an underutilized commercial project. I mean,
Well, it's an underutilized
Right.
property that is zoned commercial. I presume that it's zoned
it
commercial.
is zone commercial, CB.
But, you know, I mean, the underutilized, the utilization is zero from a commercial point of view. So,
Right, it's under, it'll be under.
I suppose that's as under as you can
About
get.
as under as you can get.
I mean, if you were taking a commercial building and doing something with it, raising it or converting it, I would understand completely. I'm just wondering what the applicability is here of the COID.
I think, I think the applicant mentioned it's a RRRP.
Yes. So we know it's going to residential
Yeah, so
use. That makes perfect
if you
sense.
read 195, 110C, it says, this type of project allows for the conversion of all or a portion of an existing commercial property into a residential use.
Okay, existing commercial property merely means that it is zoned commercial. It means nothing more than that?
It's open to interpretation.
Yeah.
It doesn't say zoned.
I'm just curious. I mean, it doesn't look bad to me. But I just want to make sure that it's properly covered by the COID. That's my only concern.
Jump past me, we'll move to Tim. What do you-
Is that the only access, that one road in? I'm trying to,
It is.
and you would keep it like that, there would be no other roads in?
Yeah.
Just wondering the turnaround there for emergency vehicles and,
Again, the impetus is to try to minimize the cuts on the State Road 110. But the turning radius, actually, he comes in, and again, I know there's a lot of lines, he comes in, and he can certainly make the three-point turn to get back out here. So, again, when the time comes, we'll
You'd
provide
make sure,
turning radiuses, we'll go meet with
Yeah.
fire prevention to show that, absolutely. Again, not that it's required, because the emergency vehicles get in and out of here. If we had to widen this a little bit, we could. I don't think it's necessary, but we would meet with the fire department and cross that bridge when we got to it.
okay.
Good. Hank, you got anything?
Well, under the COID special permit, I'm looking at your plan for here, it's kind of hard for me, but it's 56 feet from the street, is that your frontage?
Correct.
I keep seeing under the COID 75,
Well,
unless I'm looking at the wrong
No, I
table.
thought they thought it was,
I believe
I
we can
looked
go
that
to
up
almost
earlier.
30 feet off the front. So in this
See what
zone,
Lot A was set
is
back.
is the table one, or, yeah, the table one under COID.
Yeah,
So front yard in COID's by right, I can go to 48 feet. With a special permit, I could go as close to 10 feet.
okay,
Yeah.
I was looking at something different. All
In
right.
this, in the underlying zone itself, it's a 60-foot offset. And we could probably meet that if we had to, but we were just trying to do is be a little bit more aware of that wetland system in the back and just try to move it
Yeah.
up front.
No, I just wanted
Yeah.
to question that setback, yeah, that's cool.
Donald, you got anything?
No question.
Nothing? Mr. Mike, what do you got?
So just, I just want to be clear, they're asking for 8 units,
Yep.
but they're allowed 4. Right now, or are they allowed 8?
Well, it's commercial, so.
It's a,
Everything we've been discussing with
No,
Center
I heard him
Village,
say that there was allowed 4, and then he mentioned 8, so I was just confused about that piece of it.
anything more than 4 requires a special permit.
Okay.
Don't,
No, I'm not confusing the two,
Okay.
I'm just asking about the two.
don't blend them.
No, not there yet.
you good?
That's all I had.
All right. Myself, I think it's kind of pretty straightforward. It's just a mirror image of what he already did. That come out beautiful. It's
It did come out
occupied. It's been
well.
occupied for years, and I think we ought to just, I think it meets
Yeah.
what we need, so we ought to just move it along.
Well, then, in that case, if there's no more discussion, I would move that we find applicability under COID as described in the, by the proponent.
I'd second that.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
Great. Thank you guys for your time.
Well, we'll
See you again.
See you
For
shortly.
the real project.
Thanks again.
all right.
That pulling up on the GIS.
You want to do the
When's Nancy?
we'll do the minor modification.
We have
Yeah.
a lot, okay.
Yeah, because think Nan kinda wanted to get in on this
Well,
one.
yeah, we need all hands.
197 Billrica Road, 2019-06, we're coming for a minor modification.
It's none other.
Good evening, everyone. Katie Enright with Howard Stein Hudson. Since we were here last, we were just trying to figure out, do you have the new site plan up? Okay, I have boards too if we need them. But essentially there was,
Slow.
okay. There was a small easement that we were going to do a trade-off with the neighbor, Frank and Alice Laspinato. We had been working with them since before we even started the project. There's an easement that ran down the center of their property. And then there was an easement that we were preparing to have. It was about 10 feet wide on the side of our property, between our property and their property. The project recently came into a purchase and sale, and so we were trying to get all our paperwork in order, and essentially the Laspinatos were not willing or wanting to sign the easement agreement anymore. So what we did was modify the plans back to where we started, which was to not have the easement. So essentially, instead of, there was some slight grading on that 10-foot strip, we've pulled it in and created a little 2.5-foot wall along that side. We've moved the sidewalk from one side of the drive to the other side of the drive. We've moved one light pole and then replaced, and then prepared a buffer screen halfway down that property line along the side of the project. So let's go to the second page. So right here, this was actually a 10-foot strip of land that they didn't know they owned, which we found during the survey. So there was this 10-foot strip of land, which we determined through the survey and through our title research that belonged to them. We were going to get rid of this easement and replace it with, and basically give this back to them for the rights to this property and replace it with this easement. Since we had those discussions and determined this, we had sent them easement language, they thought about it, they talked to an attorney and decided it wasn't in their best interest to do so, so we took this easement off the drawing altogether. And what we've done is instead of before the sidewalk was on this side, but we wanted to give them, we needed to put in a tiny little retaining wall and we wanted to give them some vegetation back on this side, so we moved the sidewalk to this side and basically took the planting all the way around to here, where we could on the side of the building. So that's really the only minor stuff. There was a light pole here that we moved to the door at the building and had the photometrics redone. You can see the vegetation we have come around the side here. And we had already cut the trees down on the site, and they had actually requested all these trees be cut down when we had the tree clearers out there, so all the trees are gone. If you go out there, the trees that were here are now gone because they had requested that they come down. So nothing's changed related to the buildings, nothing's changed related to the parking. Essentially, we just had to shift that grading in that we were doing on the property and pull the vegetation and one light pole in. So we wanted to make sure, I talked to Evan about it, we wanted to make sure that the Mylars reflected the project as it's to be constructed. So we made the modifications, we talked to Christina Papadopoulos, and your planner, Evan Belansky. Christina has had a chance to review the plans and comment on the plans and is all set with the plans, and I have Mylars for you. So if you have any
Okay.
questions?
All right, does anybody see anything that's
read that
bouncing out at them? It
Send
looks
that down.
fairly
Read
straightforward
that
to
in.
me. Hope we got a letter to read.
Well, I can do this.
Public
Do they have a
Works.
tenant? Who's the-
There is a potential tenant. Well, there's a potential sale to build the project.
Nice.
All right.
So, really.
Well, let me read this letter to the planning board from town engineer. Dear members, this office has reviewed the site plans by Howard Stein Hudson Associates, consisting of 12 sheets dated June 28th, 2018, revised through January 15th, 2020, and a supplemental data report dated June 2018, revised through October 2018. As a result of this review, this office's concerns have been met sufficiently, and the plan has been revised accordingly. We recommend endorsement of the Mylars. If you have any questions, please contact this office.
Okay. Any of you guys down there got any input on this? No?
No, I think it's fine.
Shut my phone off.
Boy, that's a loud
It's a nice ring.
Wake everybody up. All right. With nobody thinking, what do you think?
I think it's time to move that we grant the minor modification as requested and endorse the Mylars accordingly.
Second that.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
You're all set?
Thank you very much.
Sure. I hope it's a beer pub.
All right. We're all here now. Do they got, the legal staff here for the 9 Acton Road? I
Yeah.
don't see them.
I'll grab them. You know, they're in the building.
Oh, Phil was out there. What am I saying? I didn't see him. I shook his hand. Right.
It's on you. I didn't click you up. I couldn't find it.
Don't ask. Believe me,
10 o'clock, I'm guessing.
This thing doing?
I've been doing it the whole day. So this is what they're looking at now, what, 30? So there's, that's what 3 units per building here?
Okay, I really hate this.
I don't have it on my phone.
What, this? That would be a nice neighborhood.
Sorry.
To start, like you know, we're being televised by Chelmsford Telemedia.
What do you want, instant replay? We want delay?
Instant replay.
No, it's the meeting I missed. I was
Oh.
seeing if the date of it.
All right, we all set here now?
Yes.
All right, 9 Acton Road presentation, finding of applicability for VCOD Village Center Overlay District on
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name, for the record, is Philip Iliopoulos. I'm an attorney here in Chelmsford. Offices at 9 North Road. Hope everyone had a nice holiday and Happy New Year. I think we were last before the board in early December. And one of the things we were charged with, or really that the board, I think, was looking to understand and quantify is based on the existing zoning, based on what you can put under the current zoning by right in terms of number of units per building, what could you build on the site? Now, this is certainly not what we're proposing, and I know if anyone out there that might be looking at it, this is not our new plan or our new design. Strictly, we were trying to even ourselves understand what could you build under the current zoning on this particular site? How many units could you get there? We didn't know the answer. We spent that time, put together a bunch of different plans, and came up with this as sort of an option of what you could do if you had to build multiple buildings versus one building that would require more of a special permit process that we've been undergoing with this board. I can have, if you want, Brian give you a very quick tutorial, a high-level explanation of the plan and where it meets zoning in terms of setbacks and parking and fire prevention and things of that nature, if you want a quick.
Sure.
If you think that would be helpful, 5
Yeah.
minutes, 2 minutes?
There was a couple of the guys that had questions on the width of the roadways between the buildings and.
Yeah, okay. So why don't I have him just
Yeah,
kind of
that's-
walk you through that real quickly,
Okay.
and then I'll come back up.
Good evening, Brian Melisi with Whitman and Bingham Associates. So we put together quite a few of these proof plans, I guess is what we're referring to them as. Some of the restraints or constraints we had, they were.
Brian, just to clarify,
quite a
what's
few.
on the screen was the second iteration. What you have is a hard copy, is the most recent iteration.
Okay. It was the same one we got, right?
Slightly different.
So this is the most up to date.
I have it. Good, thank you. I put it together. So first and foremost, one of the constraints was no more than 4 units per building. We went with, or we were tasked with no more than 3 stories per building. The parking and some of the parking offsets. We tried the best we could to meet some of the parking regulations as far as some of the offsets. To the west of the property, we know there's a residential zone as well as a residential use. So we had a 20-foot offset from that side. The dash line that goes around the perimeter, if I may, Mr. Chair, we've labeled that as what we call the building offset line. So no buildings go out beyond that, which was 40 feet in the front, 20 feet to the left side, and 10 feet everywhere else, 5 feet on the rear. Parking spaces, we tried to label them, 19 feet with a 24-foot wide aisle. Tried to go no more than no dead-end spaces or parking area beyond 15 spaces. Tried to get some type of maneuverability through here. Come to find out, I'm not exactly sure of any building or fire code or building code between buildings. What we held was a 10-foot minimum between buildings, so no building touches another building for at least 10 feet. And we tried to show how many units we could get in there. This plan here shows 10 individual buildings, 3-unit buildings, 1 on each floor, for a total of 30 units. We tried to provide a parking calc as to how much parking there's. I think this might be one of the original ones. How many parking spaces we required, how many we have, as well as kind of an open space calc, which is literally just calculated impervious area versus non-impervious area, to try to show, how many units could be built on the property looking at zone. Couple iterations as we were going kind of back and forth with the team, and some of the early comments even from the own team, which was some of them mixed and matched. I think the latest iteration, we moved the bank of buildings to 20 feet off the property line to be able to show that we could actually get a 20-foot line. And I'm sure you guys probably have a whole lot more questions, so we'll do our best to answer.
All right, sounds good. Why don't we just run it around the board real quick and see what we got for questions as far as how this works. So you want to start in, Nan?
Yeah, I did take a look at this when it was sent out to us, and the concerns I had about it are that there's a requirement in the standard, and within the overlays, the rest of the bylaws apply unless the overlay modifies it. So there's a whole lot of the bylaws that still apply to this outside of the overlay. So there are requirements about having more than one building on a site that requires them to have a clearance between them that is acceptable for fire and safety to the police and fire department, and I would question whether 10 feet would be a realistic number for them to gain access to all these buildings.
Right.
There is a requirement under parking that prohibits under Center Village parking, that prohibits parking within the front yard. So anything within the front 40 feet in this case would not be allowed to have parking. So, everything behind that perforated line effectively could be used for parking. And one of the things that I don't see on here that seems like it would be of significance is the location of the brook and the proximity of these buildings to wetlands, because how many buildings you can put in here is a function of EPA regs as well.
Right.
Taking a look at the GIS maps with the EPA watersheds and wetlands markings, I sincerely doubt that these have the clearance from the wetlands that would be required. So I think they need to go back and do some more work on a realistic by right plan.
Okay.
Want to
Mike?
take these one at a time? Because.
Yeah, that way we can get
Because-
some of the questions
Yeah.
answered.
Take 'em
That's
one
a
at
good
time?
idea, yeah. Why don't we address some of the questions that she had there?
I'll address it first from the zoning bylaw.
Yep.
Something about multiple principal structures, which we do regulate, but it says except in residential districts. So 195-12 doesn't apply within residential zoning districts. We don't regulate multiple principal residential structures in the zoning bylaw. Then you mentioned parking
So we
setback.
don't get, so we're not concerned with fire and
I
safety
didn't say
access?
that, but the zoning bylaw doesn't regulate it,
It doesn't provide specific numbers, no.
no.
No, I agree.
I mean, if we did regulate it, it'd be within 195-12
Yeah.
in the first,
Yeah, and we don't have specific numbers.
right. You mentioned something about front parking offset within the table 2. The third bold, parking placement on lots, L10, front parking setback, multifamily column, 30 feet. I think your next one was wetlands. So similarly to 11 Cushing, it's a previously disturbed site with significant pavement and building as part of the previously disturbed area within the riverfront. The Conservation Commission will treat this very similarly as that project. They will not allow new net increase in impervious between pavement and building. They will attempt to hold the existing edge of pavement, and where there is encroachment, they'll look for existing pavement to be removed. So the existing wetland regulations and local bylaw setbacks don't apply, meaning they're not set in stone.
Because it's already paved.
Not only is it already paved, but there's building within close proximity to the resource areas. So that's,
Okay,
that,
so that gets that one. Mike, you got any comments or questions?
No, I think they did the study that we asked them to do.
Yep.
To get to how many can actually fit on this lot. Do I think that this could be built like this? I mean, I know we're not, but I don't think it would pass. The fire department would not allow this at all. And I know you mentioned 195-12, but 195-12A says, actually B is all principal buildings on the lot no principal building shall be located in relation to another principal building on the lot, the same lot, or adjacent to, so to cause danger from fire.
yeah.
10 feet of, you got
A,
10,
B, and
10,
C
10.
don't, A, B, and C only apply for commercial.
Okay.
No, but that says except in residential districts, and this is not a residential district.
The underlying is Center Village.
Yeah, that's not a residential district.
Okay. So I'll go further on. I mean, part of my due diligence, I did circle with the Conservation Commission agent, circled with the building commissioner, and circled with fire prevention. So they've seen the plan. Minimum 10-foot offset between principal structures was provided by the building commissioner. That's minimum. It could be reduced based upon certain building code elements. Fire prevention set at a minimum, again, based upon the proof plan concept, 20-foot perimeter fire lane. They did express some concerns with getting the ladder to buildings 4 and 5. But without designing the building and knowing what the roof pitch is and the exact height, that would have to be, that would be typically part of their detailed analysis.
I think for basis of the study and the applicability, I think they did what we asked them to do, and the baseline is 30.
Right.
Yep.
Mike, you
my
got
opinion.
anything?
Well, I mean, I look at it and, you know, if I had the AutoCAD, I'd simply take those 4 buildings in the middle, move them over them. I don't see why on earth they did it this way, unless there's some secret that we don't know about. But yeah, I think it solves, I think it shows the, you know, the bleeding edge feasibility of it, and that's all we really
That's all we
need.
need at this
Yeah.
point.
You know, I mean, if this came before us, that'd be interesting.
That's right.
But I, you know, I think the point is made, and I'm willing to accept that.
All right, Tim?
To echo what Mike said, I think you could beat this apart. I don't see like where dumpsters, handicap.
Yeah, there's a million things, million
Where a
ways we
truck
could
could
pick
even
at it.
turn,
mean-
but, I mean, the number, I guess I'm not having a hard time with anymore. I think that is a suitable number for that lot.
All right, Hank?
I think it's for applicability, I think it's great. It's shown the 30 units. I know, like you said, we're not voting on this, so
Right.
I'm fine with that, even
All right,
though I
Donald?
can't vote on it.
So, Brian, did you say 4 units per building and 3 stories
3 units per building.
maximum? Did you say no more than that?
We went, the premise is 3 stories per building, and so there were 3 units per building.
3 units,
Well, no, you
not
said
4.
no,
Oh, okay.
I said, I think the bylaw allows 4 units per
Yeah.
building, but no, these are,
Yeah,
the
that's
calculation
great.
is
It'd
3
be hard to
units.
do with these, limited to 3 stories.
Correct.
Okay.
Question?
Yep.
Yeah, is the expectation for these buildings that these would be side by sides or each story?
Stories.
Okay.
All right. So going around with that, my thoughts on it are, we're here for applicability. Does it meet the VCOD under all our rules we've gone through with Paul? And I kind of think it does. We're hinging on how many units and how big and size, and we've thrown our concerns out, so I think everybody knows what we're expecting to see. If they feel comfortable with going and spending the money on the engineering and bring it forward, it is what it is. If it comes back and it's something that the board doesn't like, it might get sent back a half a dozen times.
Right, I think, Mr. Chairman and Board, we've tried to establish a base.
Yep.
Obviously.
I think you did that, you
Yeah,
did that.
And I think what we would do is leave open to come back before you potentially with some argument on density bonuses. And maybe the board, you know,
Sure.
I can't tell you where that's gonna be. I can't tell you that this project, even a 30 base project, would be economically feasible at this point.
Right.
We
That's-
haven't really made that
And
determination.
that's what you
but-
guys gotta figure out. It's not up to us to,
Right, but I think if we can establish this is a base
Yep.
with, you know, the right of the board to grant density bonuses depending on what is proposed under that provision of the bylaw, there's no, there's no finality in terms of,
Yeah.
you know, number of units. We
That's
play that
understood.
out.
okay. Did you have anything you wanted to chime in with that, Evan? or- I saw you grabbing the mic.
I would just say procedurally, you have enough members to take a vote tonight. Normally, what your vote is simply a simple vote, and then you direct staff to draft the decision, and then you review and ratify the decision. In this particular case, if the board feels more comfortable, hold off on a vote, can draft it, and then you can deliberate, if there's need to deliberate, to revise the draft decision as appropriate. I'll also work with council to assist in drafting this particular decision.
Yeah, sounds good.
What do you- I think we could probably go ahead with the.
Well, I think
applicability part of it
we
and
should,
I'd like to draft.
Wait and see what they come back with.
I think if whichever way we go, we ought to ask the proponent, given that we're technically too short tonight. We have one who hasn't,
Mylar.
Us can't vote.
he hasn't done his
The Mullen one.
Mullen.
Is that required on a non-public hearing?
It's required,
I was
I
being,
wouldn't
I was
risk it.
being,
I'm just asking, it's obviously sort of a unique process. It's sort
I
of like
wouldn't
a-
risk it.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay,
So-
that's fine,
and
that's
but
fine.
if you-
So
if
we
you-
just continue, to the February 12th meeting, and there'd be a draft decision. I'm assuming these decisions are, from my last experiences, aren't very
Fairly
lengthy. It's pretty high
straightforward,
level, right?
correct.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
That's
it's
Okay,
Three pager or something.
so to, okay. Yeah, I guess so, yes, I guess the question is, we get to the 12th and there's still not people here, but that's always a risk, I guess. We'll hope for the best.
I mean, Henry.
It's up to
Henry
you
can't-
guys, if you
Right.
want us to take a vote on it, we will. I can't say how the rest of the board is gonna vote, but it's,
And I guess, can, depending on the next meeting, people have the ability to watch the prior meetings and sort of,
Presuming they've only missed one meeting.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think that, how many meetings of this has Henry missed?
we reviewed this today.
Yep.
Colleen and I, this would be Henry's first. Tim has missed one meeting.
Okay, so both of them
missed
could
one.
mullen up.
And,
Okay,
Glenn missed one, but he's mulled in.
okay.
so,
All right.
it's up to you guys. You want us to throw it out for a vote tonight, or you wanna wait until the next meeting and,
So really eligible to vote is just
we got 5 of us.
5 of you, and we
Yeah.
need
We
4
gotta
out
get-
of 5?
So you gotta get 3 out of 5.
Well,
No, you need 4 out
You need a
of
need
4 out of
4 out of
5, I
5.
think.
Major.
It's simple majority, but anybody that
Simple
is
majority
not
of the total
voting
board.
is presumed to be a no vote.
I won't be
So
here
you've
on
got
the
a
12th.
7-member board,
Yeah.
and a need
Okay.
4 out of 7 votes.
Yeah, I mean, I think if all we're looking for is the 30 baseline, it's, my sense is that we've all sort of,
Yeah.
again, that's not what, we were looking at 4852, so I'm not saying the 30 baseline is what is gonna make it work at the end of the day, but I think if the vote is that with the understanding that the board has the ability to look at the density bonus when we present the plans, that doesn't certainly
Right.
We certainly
pigeonhole the
would.
board. Would there be any other typical contingencies in these types of applicability findings?
On occasion, the board has included some disclaimers or not inclined to do certain things. I think you've heard that loud and clear, as, height.
Right,
Height, I think, is probably the one that's been loudest.
right.
So usually applicability will include some major words of caution where the board feels appropriate.
I would be much
But
more
we
comfortable
also
if
talked
putting
about,
together
dealing with the
review
neighbors.
package and going through it, particularly
Evan,
the sections
would
on performance
that
standards.
go, is that gonna be?
Okay, you know, that's fair. So why don't, would you accept a motion from you then to continue to the 12th? With the request from
So-
planning that they come up with a draft?
Come up with a draft decision and,
So that's fine, just to be clear.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing any individual or multiple board members expressing inclination for denial. I've heard during the process concerns, and I will attempt to do my best in articulating and capturing those concerns as appropriate.
do you want us to do a quick straw poll just to,
Maybe worth it.
all right, we'll go around the table with Nan.
Straw poll for, what's the condition? That we're
To-
approving
for-
it tonight,
to-
or
no,
until
no,
the
no.
12th?
When
That we are
when it comes
inclined to
back, we're
approve.
just doing a straw poll to see what everybody thinks as far as the applicability goes on this.
I've got it down to, a review of performance standards might change it.
Okay, Mike?
I would lean yes.
Mike?
I would lean yes, but I would, well, no point in reading the cautions to the proponent. They've heard them all.
I'd lean yes. Tim?
For applicability, I would lean yes.
Hank?
I'd lean
Yeah, and I'm
yes.
talking
Donald?
applicability strictly.
Yes, but I'm not gonna be here on the 12th.
He's not gonna be here on the 12th, so.
Well, at least get you 6.
So with that, do you want to take a vote?
Well, I can't.
All right,
vote.
so we gotta, you made a motion to,
I was contemplating continuing this,
okay.
but if that's not
Well, if you're gonna be in
Acceptable.
the same position, I guess, on the 12th, then that's the problem. We run out of the
Right.
Hey, you know, we could keep
Well,
doing this.
you
Well,
wouldn't,
just do applicability
because
tonight.
Let's do it, you got four.
Hank and
We got
Tim would be
four.
able to do, review and do the Mullen certification.
So you'd get
Right,
seven.
So
it's-
you'd be up to
right.
6 out of 7 rather than 4 out of 7,
Yeah.
Right,
or 5 out of 7.
right.
So I thought when we were talking before, this is a simple majority.
Yes.
So you'd only need 3 out
But
of
it's-
5.
But it's
a
not
majority
a
of the
majority
whole.
of voting members, it's a majority of the
Board.
members of the board.
Seven-member board.
So you
Not-
need
not who's
4 out of
present.
7 members of the
But the full
board.
board.
All right.
The ones that are ineligible to vote
That's
under
what-
the Mullen
yeah.
decision count as no votes
Okay, all right,
Until they mull it in.
until they
okay.
do their
That-
certification
that-
and become
that's
eligible.
kind of what I was getting at before, when I think I said it should be 4, and
Yep.
we went back and forth at 3, and
I mean,
Yeah, you
I
have to
think what
review
we'd
it
like
and
to
have-
do is get a vote, maybe just make it contingent on writing up the decision and formal adoption of the decision so that everyone's comfortable whatever's in the decision is in the decision. But I think we could certainly verbally have a vote while we have enough members we know are here to say that the baseline is 30 and that the decision would be drafted and, you know, approved at the next meeting. Rather than run the risk,
Throw
we
that
come
one out
back
there,
on the
Mike?
12th and 1 or 2
Okay.
members aren't here and we're back to
Go
the same
through the
position.
performance standards first.
No,
They're not part of applicability.
no, they're not. They'll
You'll
come
have an
later.
You'll have an opportunity, won't you?
we'll have all the opportunity to do all that. All right, go ahead.
I move that we find applicability under the VCOD for this project.
We get a second? We get a second, motion and a second, all those in favor? Aye,
It's 4,
opposed,
1.
1, 4 to 1, it rolls.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right.
So just, you did receive a letter.
Yes.
Yeah, we saw it.
I did take a couple minutes this evening between receiving and, I don't know if you want me to quickly go through it for the boards and
It's
the
irrelevant
public's.
At this point, isn't it?
Well, my
not
interest
at
is to
all.
make sure that, 'cause I think there were several board members who mentioned some of these. And so I think it's worthwhile so that the board and the public, there isn't second guessing your adoption of a proof plan. You need to remember that whatever methodology you use for this proof plan is likely going to be a similar methodology for the next proof plan. So I just think it's worthwhile, so that members and the public aren't still reaching for some of these as reasons for analyzing a proof plan. And just quickly, these are
Okay,
just my
yeah,
initial.
let's go through it
This is
then.
my initial thoughts. So the multiple curb cuts, if you look at that provision, it says that the board may approve more than one per site plan review.
So we have the option.
But the point is, it's not a special permit and it's not a waiver.
Right.
Is that it just says per site plan review. So my point is that the board has the legal authority to do that. Number 2, if you look at 195, 127, which is the landscaping provisions within Center Village, those supersede all landscaping provisions within the general bylaw. That's important because some people will interpret Center Village as all the rest of the zoning bylaw still applies. The entire zoning bylaw doesn't apply. It applies based upon what's in the Center Village overlay. So in section 195, 127, for purposes of landscaping, none of the other provisions apply, only the ones that are specified in the Center Village overlay. Jump down to number 4, I mentioned redevelopment within wetlands. Number 5, number 6, if you look at the plan that they submitted this evening, I believe it shows 78 parking spaces, which is 12 more than what is required. So the point there is that there's miscellaneous massaging or miscellaneous opportunity to add and delete. Just because the plan doesn't show a dumpster, I think they're proving that they have the opportunity or space to accommodate a dumpster. Same with the ADA parking spaces. Number 7 relates to parking, and Article 5 is our parking bylaw. All of those provisions remain in place. The one referring to the 120, the separation between, 150 feet separation between parking lots with more than 20 spaces. The planning, under 195-16D, the planning board can deviate that via special permit. Says it right in that Section D provision. And then the final one that I'll just mention, because I think when this comes back, there'll likely be conversations about the density bonuses. Under, see if I can find it here. 195-124F, which is the Beaver Brook density bonus provisions. If you recall, there's 1, 2, 3. You would ask council if 1 and 2 are additive. You ask council if 3 was a combination of 1 and 2. The 4th provision, we didn't ask council about. However, the 4th provision is likely, the way it's worded is, the planning board may approve a payment in lieu of option 1 and 2 above. Such payment to the town will be for the specific purpose of furthering the implementation of the Beaver Brook Riverwalk riverfront. So, again, that's just another provision of where the bylaw is coming at the same issue from multiple avenues to provide flexibility. So those are just the quick comments I had on the letter. As I said, I thought it was important for the board to feel comfortable and confident in their review and approval of the proof plan, because this is something that you're going to see at least one more time.
Okay. Evan, can you, there's some neighbors in the public here that are in the room
This is
here.
not a public session.
No, I know, it's not a public session. Just if you could explain the process. They've asked a few questions on, the approval tonight of the applicability. What does that mean? What's the next step? When does it come to a public session for them to input?
Some board members are aware of this process, but for the other members in the public, so from here, we will review and ratify the decision on the February 12th. From there, the applicant will proceed with developing fully engineered site plans, architecturals, landscaping plans, lighting, likely a traffic study. When they submit that, it could be a month, could be 3 months, could be 6 months. They may never come back. But from the date we receive it, will essentially be on your agenda within 30 days. During that 30-day timeframe, abutter notices go out. All abutters within 300 feet, according to the assessors database, are legally notified. And 2 advertisements in the Chelmsford Independent take place. Once it's on your agenda, the public hearing's opened. What the board normally does is you'll read in letters. This will be the first time that the board will receive formal departmental technical comments. So you're familiar with what those usually entail. You'll usually ask the proponent to make a presentation. The board will ask some questions. And then as part of every public hearing, public comment for or against, written or oral, is taken. These hearings usually go beyond one meeting, usually beyond 1 month. I think it's fair to say that in this particular case, there may be it may warrant a peer review of some type, whether it's traffic or stormwater or what have you, and that will be somewhat dependent on what comments the board gets back from departments. And then it's, the process moves along like any other process.
Okay, very good.
But, so we're clear though, right now, we're saying applicability for 33 units, 30 units.
So the way,
Anything above that.
Well, no, let me say, we're saying applicability. We're not even committing to 30 units.
We're not committing to anything.
Exactly,
They could come in and we don't like the
applicability,
plan and
Although we've said, I think, we've
So
implied that we
There's
will.
still a long way to go. like
long
most-
way, a long way to
all,
go
all you've done is you've granted them permission
to come
to
back.
begin designing a fully engineered project for the planning board review that starts at 30.
Yeah.
The starting point at 30, as town council mentioned at the last meeting, still requires the board to do its thorough review.
Yeah.
There may be a deficiency in which 30 units is unacceptable. Traffic, stormwater, fire prevention.
Just to clarify, the proof plan that's being submitted to the board tonight, and whatever they come in at, is still a special permit standard. It's not an as-of-right project.
Yeah.
It's simply that you guys have made the determination that they've shown a proof plan that if they comply with the requirements of the bylaw, they can request a special permit showing that many units. It doesn't mean that it has to be granted.
Right.
Again, you're gonna do a review, and you're gonna make a determination as to whether or not there are issues of concern that would either allow you to issue a special permit or not allow you to issue a special permit. It's not a given that they get the number of units they're requesting, but what it does is it allows you to set the base for which you can then make a determination as to what bonus units they can request.
Right.
And again, those require special permits, then they're not automatically granted. They're, again, discretionary.
Okay, so I got one quick question for Evan. All the talk that's been going around town about the sewer capacity being at 100%. The question I got, is the 100% prior to all the units that are out there being constructed now, or is it
So,
once they're constructed?
good question, and I anticipated this coming up in some planning board meeting sooner than later. So what's being distributed is a memo that the town manager provided to the Board of Selectmen at their November 4th, 2019 meeting. My understanding is that current capacity does not take into account any new development that's in the pipeline or any existing vacancies, whether commercial or residential in town.
Okay, so we could be, these people could be coming in and being rejected
So,
due to,
so I can't answer that question
I wouldn't think
definitively.
you would, but.
This memo articulates that through the town manager's efforts, multiple options, local and regional options, are being assessed and analyzed. Local options could be policy amendments, bylaw amendments, could be financial implications, all of the above. I will say that this is a complicated issue, one that I don't think anyone has all the answers to right now. Not all the questions have been asked, and they haven't been answered.
Yeah.
If you have a chance, watch the November 4th Board of Selectmen meeting back.
Yeah.
My understanding and interpretation of what has been discussed to date is this memo, and that the town is proceeding with business.
Okay, would it be smart on our part as the board, when we make a decision on projects from here on out, do like we do on an A&R, saying, we're not saying
Good
that
point,
you
yep.
have sewer
So-
available or water
So
available?
I'm not sure, my initial suggestion is that the board engage with council, that when the appropriate time, when the board determines the appropriate time, we ask council for a letter as to how the planning board should handle its business.
Okay,
My initial thought on that is, right now, you don't put disclaimers as to whether someone's going to get fire approval or water or sewer connections.
right,
They're not guaranteed,
right,
and that still remains in place.
okay. So that it doesn't hold us,
I don't,
To the
yeah,
fire
I don't
if-
think if you continue to approve projects, you're not guaranteeing connections on anything.
Okay.
Can I ask a very well-defined question? Who or what agency or person or group in town has the authority to stop a project because they lack, or the town lacks sewage capacity? I don't think we do. Who could stop it? Is it the building inspector? Is it the sewer
So
commission?
It's the sewer division.
Sewer division,
Within
okay.
DPW and that issues the permits.
Okay, so basically the mechanism to stop additional connection is refusal of permit for the sewer department.
In Chelmsford, you cannot get a building permit.
Right,
Without
right,
written
and that-
authorization.
So with
It's
that
the
being
building
said, when we get the letters back from the departments, we're gonna get a letter from the sewer department saying no concerns
Or something,
concerns.
correct.
Okay, so
A-
that clears us at that
Eventually, a
point.
letter like that
Okay.
may appear.
Okay.
Okay,
All
good,
right.
so it's.
So it'll be done prior to us voting on a project anyhow?
Absolutely, like I said, I
Okay.
mean, before you take any vote, you usually
Okay.
are looking for clean letters.
Yeah.
So if I've followed that, what I'm hearing is we just pretend there's no such thing as a limit to the sewage capacity and somebody else will
I think,
blow the
I
whistle.
think from the board's perspective,
Yeah.
it's not directly within your jurisdiction. Your site plan, your special permits do require you to determine that there's adequate infrastructure.
in a general way, but it
In
doesn't
lieu
specify.
of a
yeah.
department sending you a letter saying there isn't, I'm not sure how the board would.
Right,
Okay.
how would we
Good.
ever know?
Correct.
All right, well, just make
as-
sure all these projects
Like I
get
said, I
run by
mean,
the
this
sewer
is- I think this
commission.
is a work in progress.
Yeah.
I think it's good that you're asking the questions, and I'm well aware and assume that there's many other people in the community that have similar questions. I also assume that this will periodically be updated at the Board of Selectmen level.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. Like,
Could I just mention one other thing,
Sure.
Evan? A couple times during the meeting with Attorney Iliopoulos, he said that he was going to reach out with the tenants. He said he would go on record saying it, reach out with the neighbors on this. Will that, want the neighbors to also feel comfortable, just because we, approved tonight, that doesn't mean what he said is off. He still will have that obligation to.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't, as the board knows, some applicants don't work with their abutters. That's why the board, that's why you
that's
guys.
why we're here.
So they'll have, I
Yeah,
just
I
wanted
think-
to bring that up
yeah,
because it was
the-
said.
As I interpret the bylaw, if they provide the transitional buffer at 20 feet and comply with the screening requirements within that 20 feet, there's not a lot to really talk about. If they fully comply, I think the board can ask for more.
Yeah, I think we'll
It's
see.
it's part of the negotiation. The original plans, I don't think were showing 20 feet.
no.
Right.
So if they fully comply, like I said, I think via negotiation, you can always ask for enhancements. But I agree, I mean, that could be something we put in the decision, that the board strongly encourages, the applicant to continue working with the single-family abutter.
Yeah.
That's something that clearly is
I'd like to see that.
of utmost concern and importance to you.
Gives, all right, okay, good. Oh, we got one for Nan over here.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. Evan, do you know how many public parking spaces we currently have in the center, and how many of those we will lose when our lease to the lot behind the Oddfellows?
Yeah, I think Santander has, I want to say it's like 70 spaces, but don't quote me on that.
I thought it was
How many other
80-something.
spaces do we have for public parking spaces?
Depends how you define public parking. Like, is the library included? Is the CCA included? Is the bike trail parking included? Is the parking lot right out back here within close proximity enough to the center? On-street parking? So it really depends on how one defines it. Right now, none of it's regulated. There's no 1 hour parking, there's no resident-only parking or customer parking.
When is the cutoff for Springtown meeting articles?
I think the Citizens has gone by.
So that's also for board submittals?
No, there's a different,
When's our cutoff for Submittal.
It's soon. I believe the board is signing we would have to either identify it tonight or no later than probably next meeting. And that would just be conceptual. I mean, if you have an idea,
Yeah, I
you know, let's.
understand. Can I request then that we put on the schedule for next town meeting, for next planning board meeting, a evaluation and of the current reduction of parking for Center Village? It currently allows 50% reduction of
Okay.
required parking for everything but residential. And with losing that amount of our public parking, I think we should take a look at whether that reduction is still reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it makes good
The
sense.
That's
reality
something-
is, we don't truly have any public parking downtown behind Oddfellows. We have an informal agreement that.
Right, that ran out,
Yeah, that's
ran
gonna
out
go away.
already, didn't it?
Right, so we have no
So,
public parking.
That's the point,
Right.
is that bylaw was put in place when we had an agreement, and we no longer have an agreement
So
for
do
that
you,
parking.
do you want some hard numbers or something from,
The Center Village Master Plan has all the numbers
Yeah.
for on-street.
Could you get that to us
Yep.
before the next meeting?
Thanks.
The Center Village Master Planning Committee is probably the only committee in town that discusses the Center Village in detail. So they've had some interesting conversations about parking and if the,
Could we get
You wanna
them, a
invite-
representative from them here next time then?
I could ask, certainly I can reach
see if they
out.
might want to come down and,
I
Give us
think
a-
it's something we
It's worth a
really need to
conversation.
take a look
Yeah.
at.
okay, yeah, that works.
So I think you're right.
Yeah,
Very good.
because right now, I think it's a little scary.
Mike's getting itchy over here.
Yeah.
I'm,
Mike
I'm,
wants
I'm,
to make a
I'm
motion.
cooking up a motion. but-
Well, keep cooking.
Wants to make a
Turn the heat up.
Gonna have to bring you,
Do we have any new business at all? Nothing? I don't think we
Nothing
do.
that I know of.
That
In
was,
that case,
That was new
that
business.
was new business.
Okay.
I would move to adjourn.
Okay, and we get a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.
Thanks, Paul.